Before we begin, thank you very much to Matt R. for joining the Patreon campaign. Very appreciated. Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you to everyone who keeps this channel afloat. I literally mean it when I say I can't do this without you guys anymore, and everyone who wants this channel to continue and keep pumping out the daily videos. I appreciate it no matter what you are pitching in. It all helps, it all supports the channel, and it all keeps me doing this, and I thank you all for allowing me to continue. And I will continue for as long as you guys show that you want to see me making videos, which, considering I haven't been able to do a normal intro in over 6 months because you guys keep pitching in, I guess, yeah, I guess you want me to keep going. So we're going to keep going. And speaking of the Patreon, this is a request from one of my top tier patrons, who do get requests from time to time, which, by the way, if you are at that tier, get ready. I do have a post to make to collect new video requests from everybody at that tier. So keep an eye out, get your idea ready, and just, yeah, message it over to me once that post is live. But for today, the request is to go over all of the Megatron designs over the years. Now, because Megatron has to be altered from his original alt mode of a gun, it means his character design has gone through the most iterations and the most changes of any of the classic characters. And because of that, and because of just how the original Megatron comes off, there's just so many different ideas and so many different designers who had different iterations in mind, whether they're trying to make him look more powerful or just trying to redesign him from the ground up because, well, they didn't like the original, you know, and that's fair. So let's go through all of the ones that I found. These are just the ones from major pieces of fiction. This is not going to be a comprehensive list of literally every type of Megatron ever. We'd be here all day. But it is just the ones that I felt represent major portions of Transformer fiction. And, of course, this is going to be incredibly subjective because we are judging books by their cover. You know, it's not about how good the toy was. It's not about how good the character was. We are simply looking at how nice they look. And what I think looks nice is going to be very different from what you think looks nice. So with that in mind, let us go on. And we'll begin with Dark of the Moon Megatron. This is a completely randomized list, by the way. So the fact that 3 live-action Megatrons start us off is completely coincidental. So, here we go. So, for the Dark of the Moon Megatron, I do think it's my favorite of the live-action Megatrons because, while I'm still not big on the whole, like, the overall movie Megatron design of he's shrapnel glued to a gray robot, I still do like how much more solid and, like, characterful this one was. Especially, like, with the poncho. Like, I don't think that Megatron should have ever taken off the poncho. But, like, seeing him just kind of wrapped up in all these chains, like they were holding him together after how much damage he took at the end of Revenge of the Fallen, he comes across with a lot more character and personality design-wise than a lot of the movie Megatrons. I still don't like the overly busy shrapnel design, but I definitely think this is probably the most interesting of the live-action Megatrons. Enough for me to put him right there in the middle so far, and we will see where he goes from there. Might bump him up. Might bump him up, depends on how we go through the rest of them. And that leads us to '07 Megatron, his first iteration. You know, the one who had a head design so bad they had to change it at the last minute. So this one is, again, it's a robot. It's a gray skeleton of a robot with silver shrapnel glued to him, and that is still not my thing. I do think it's a little bit more balanced, is a little bit more polished. On screen, it does definitely look menacing, so I'm going to put him in the same middle-of-the-road retail level, and then we will decide where everything else falls, which, by the way, I'm going to try and remember to slide the slideshow below me, but I'm always terrible at remembering to do that, so I apologize if I screw it up. And that will bring us to Revenge of the Fallen Megatron. Now remember, we're not judging by the toy. If we're judging by the toy, I actually really liked his toy, like weird and offbeat as it was. But the overall design, the one scrawny arm and the one big murder arm, kind of makes the makes the design a lot clunkier than the other Megatrons. Combine that with some clumsy addition of the tank detail, like how his lower legs are all like folded up tank tread, and I wasn't really happy with that. It looked like he had big like clown shoes. So design wise, definitely probably my least favorite of all of them actually. So he'll probably go bargain bin for now. And again, we might shuffle around to see where he goes after that. RID 2001 Megatron. This is in that era of super busy Megatron designs. Super busy, like, villain designs in general. Like, you could say that of Megatron, and we'll say that of some of the other Megatrons that are to follow. But I do think this one pulls it off pretty well. Like, the chromed chest actually looks really cool. It's like a central breastplate. He's got the pauldrons rocking on his shoulders, the big wings. Wings are always super cool looking on a villain character. And then the color scheme just works. You know, it's black, gold, and purple primarily. It's a very regal color scheme. He looks like an Emperor of Destruction. So, it's a busy design. You know, and you'll find that I will prefer, like, middle of the road, not too simple, not too complicated designs. I like a balance between detail and solid appearance. So his design is very busy. It's occupied, but it still looks really, really good. He goes up to the premium price level. And that's where he will stay for now. I think that's fair for the moment. This is where we get unfair. Remember, this is going to be a very biased list because it's my personal opinion. But Transmetal 1 Megatron has always been one of my absolute favorite designs. The black and the bronze, it works really well. The hits of purple. I love the tail weapon. Like the tail weapon working as his traditional fusion cannon, but also it's an optional thing. A Beast Wars Megatron who has 2 hands. You know, that's actually pretty good. So we'll include that. We'll factor that in. I love the huge shoulders. I like the central like faux T-Rex head buried in the chest. Yeah, I'm bumping that to the top. Like that is one of my top tier Megatron designs. He might be the top of this list completely. We will see. Also, this does make me realize that the one major Megatron that I left off of here was the Beast Machines Megatron. That is my error. I'll throw him in at the end, and we'll just pretend that he was part of this list all along, okay? Okay, so, Prime Megatron. This is kind of what I thought the movie design should have always been. It is a very solid-looking Megatron, but is very sharp, very menacing, and does harken back to the original. It feels like a proper, like, modernized version of the original design, which I guess was the idea behind Prime's aesthetic. It was to kind of go with how the movie looked, but dial it back so it looked a lot more traditional and solid, and that kind of hit the right spot for me. I don't know if he goes premium price. I'm not prepared to put him in Holy Grail just yet, but I do want to put him really high up there. So let me see. Yeah, because he's the right balance of design for me, I am going to put him above RID Megatron for now. We will see where he goes from there. There, and yeah, once again, I forgot to do that. It's going to be a drinking game. Don't do that. Don't do that. I have minors watching. Don't do that. I don't condone that. All right, but no, let's make sure. G2 Megatron. The first time they had to turn him into a tank, and for some reason they decided purple and green camo. Neon green, for that matter. I don't know where that camouflage disguises him. I don't know what kind of toxic waste dump he is hiding out in with that design. Keep in mind, again, we are not judging by the toy, because the toy was very simple. But we are judging by the overall design aesthetic of him. And I will admit the purple and green have grown on me over the years. I liked it as a kid, but that was in the comics where the green was far more military in design. Design-wise, yeah, it's a very bulky, clunky kind of Megatron. I mean, he does have like a big presence to him, which is good. But it's hard, it's a design that's hard to take as seriously as some of the other Megatrons on this list. Yeah, I'm gonna put him lower on the retail end right now. Yeah, so we'll talk. Yeah, so we'll put him there. We'll put him there. I think that's okay for now. We'll see. Animated Megatron. I am a little bit more biased toward this one because, yeah, spoiler alert, it's one of my favorite G1, it's inspired by one of my favorite G1 Megatron designs, which we'll talk about at the end of this video. But I do like the VTOL, like the attack helicopter he turns into. I really like his overall look. The high shoulders work for me. That adds like this really big presence to him. Fusion cannon, obviously. He definitely goes very high up on the list. Does he reach Holy Grail tier? I'm looking at some of the other Megatron designs that we've got coming up, and I definitely feel like he needs to go pretty high. I will put him Holy Grail for now. I do love the look and the overall design work on that Megatron. It's traditional while adding enough to be a lot more menacing and stand out. That's what hits me about that one. So, good on him. Our latest Megatron from Earthspark. This one is, okay, so it's IDW influenced because it's the same designer, okay? We'll acknowledge that. This one does have some, like, oddities to it. Like, it's super weird that one of the, like, weird criticisms I have of this Megatron design is how strangely mounted his arm cannon is. Because it's mounted in a way where all the bulk goes behind the elbow, and that seems super awkward to me. But the overall design, it's sleek. It's, you know, it carries some of that Decepticon menace, but because he's a good guy, the more rounded aesthetic to it is actually like helping it out and keeping him from looking like too scary as a villain. So he works there. I do like it. I do like it quite a bit. As an evolution of IDW Megatron design, yeah, I do actually really like this one. So, premium priced here for him. Next up, okay, so Cyberverse Megatron. This one's interesting because it is G1 Megatron if he was designed to be a tank from the beginning, rather than trying to make a tank work with his original G1 body design. So that one is, that one's iffy. I don't think it's bad. It's definitely the original Megatron design, just detailed up a little bit. I don't think that really doesn't like amplify him in any way, or like, it's just kind of like updates him. I mean, it's the evergreen Megatron design, basically. So I'm gonna put him right there. I like it better than movie designs, but it's still just kind of a Megatron, right? It's just kind of a Megatron. The Last Knight Megatron. Here's a rough one. Because, to be honest, I really didn't like the idea. Now, keep in mind, the overall design is actually kind of cool. I personally did not like the idea of, like, forcing the Knight motif into Optimus and Megatron. It just felt very forced and unneeded. So, it's weird. So, I mean, overall design-wise, I mean, it's the most solid looking of all the live action Megatrons, but honestly, there's just something very plain about it too. I mean, at least with the shrapnel, there's different detailing going on. There's different, there's like a little color variation between like armor and skeleton. This one is just all one big gunmetal gray robot guy, which kind of makes him a lot more dull for me. So, bargain bin he goes. So, probably ranking up there with my least favorite. I know everyone loves the toy. The toy is great. I think the overall design could have been way better and more interesting. Transmetal 2 Megatron. This one's going to be divisive because I'll be honest with you, I've never been huge on Transmetal 2 Megatron. Much as I love the Transmetal 1, Transmetal 2 just, I don't know. Loved it as a kid. I love my Dragon Transformers, but when I look at the 3 Megatrons, he's definitely my least favorite of all of them. It's still not like a boring design or anything, far from it. It just, I don't know, there's something about it that just doesn't look right. I don't know if it's just like being a bright red Megatron is weird to me, or what, but yeah, there's just something about it that never quite did it, and I don't know what it is. I am putting him at retail level. That one's going to get me in trouble. That's the one that's going to get me all of the wrath in the comment section. But it is what it is, right? It's my opinion. That's where my opinion goes. All right, Armada Megatron. Another one that's a little bit more divisive. There's a lot of people who really love, of course, the people who grew up with the design are absolutely going to love it. But there's also some weirdness to this design. We can agree with that, right? Like big cannon just hanging off his hip. That's a little bit odd. Gigantic tread shoulders. I don't mind. I kind of think they look cool. A little bit awkward, though. Antlers. It kind of comes down to how you feel about his antlers. So me, I mean, I'm kind of okay. You know, I've kind of gotten okay with the antlers. Beyond that, I mean, it's a gray, black, and purple color scheme that gives way to green in the tank mode. See CG2 Megatron, that's how you do it. I do like the design overall. It's going to be low end of the premium scale for me. Definitely stands out. It's definitely a super unique Megatron while still looking like a big menacing villain, so I give it credit for that. Alright, War for Cybertron Megatron, or Fall of Cybertron Megatron. I believe they had the same design in both games, and I love this design. It is extremely sharp as a Megatron. I really like the overall, like, aesthetic of it. I like the extra pop of color that they added in. I think that really helps the standard design. Let's see. Where do I put you? Where do I put you? I guess that's fair to put you around Prime Megatron, because that definitely feels like somewhere in the same aesthetic, which makes sense. It's all supposed to be the aligned continuity, which later on doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but hey, they tried. The idea was there at the time. But yeah, they kind of feel like they are cut from the same cloth. Very sharp takes on Megatron that do a lot to change up the old school design. I like it. Energon Megatron, which is technically not a Megatron, it's a Galvatron. In Japan, he was Galvatron because, yeah, look at his design. He's got the abs, he's got the crown, he's a Galvatron. But he's Megatron in America, so we're going to count him on the Megatron. And again, another one I really, really like. I think taking the Galvatron design and kind of converting it down to the Megatron color scheme is an interesting idea. I'm not a big fan of the blue. I think some darker purple would have helped, just to kind of keep him in more like villainous tones. It's not bad though. It's like overall, it's still a pretty solid design. Where do I put you? Honestly, I think I like Armada Megatron just a bit better. I really do like Energon Megatron, but I think that design really hit its stride when it got redone into Galvatron. The purple and black, the American release. Let's just put it straight. The American release is amazing. One of the prettiest toys I've ever owned. But no. We'll put it there. We'll put it there. I think he's high on the middle range. Threw this one in because Megatron did rock this body in IDW for quite a while, and I do think it's a very interesting departure for the standard Megatron aesthetic. Very sharp, very sleek. He's kind of hitting like Seeker territory with being, being a jet in the first place, but also just being like very like sharp and fast. And I like how it kind of feels like hyper-futuristic Megatron, you know? Where it's got all these sleek lines and sharp angles to it, and the fusion cannon looks like a rail gun. And that seems like a proper, like, boost-up upgrade. Really, really do like this design. Really like this design. And the gunmetal in purple worked really well for a villain color scheme for Transformers. Yeah, let's see. Where do you go? I can't wholly... I like the design a lot, but I definitely think it's not, like, super high on my list. So we're going to put him right there at the end of the premium. I think that's fair. I think that's where he kind of falls for me. All right, Cybertron Megatron. This one is another one that could get me in trouble. So for me, this design was always way too busy. And I mean, you got a lot of colors going on here. Like the purple and teal works too, but you also got the grays, the blacks. There's some hit of white in there. The orange, which seems to kind of come out of nowhere. And you can tell me, yes, it's supposed to be like Unicron armor. They still could have made it any color they wanted. They didn't have to be orange, or they could have used orange in more places, and it would have made more sense. And then like hits of red, and like it's it's a super busy Megatron design. This is again one I feel like hit its stride when it got repainted into that year's Galvatron, where it got taken back to G1 Megatron colors, and it solidified that design really, really well. So the overall, but we're judging Megatrons, not Galvatrons, so if we're judging Megatrons, this one has to be judged accordingly. For me, I mean, the overall sculpt and the overall design is fine. It's just like the color scheme that like ruins it. Though I will admit, even the design is kind of clunky in places. He's got a bunch of backpack kibble, a bunch of kibble hanging off the arms. It's never utilized that well. It's I'm going to bargain bin this. This is again one where the toy itself I think does great. I think it's a very fun toy, but man, the color scheme just kind of wrecks it for me. The War Within Megatron. So I just kind of wanted to fluff up the list, honestly, because I wanted to be just a little more than 20 entries total. And this one in general is a very bulky, very powerful looking Megatron. It's a Megatron if he was like hulked out, which is a very different look for him because he usually doesn't go for like super heavy, like big shoulder, big arm aesthetic. You know, he's just a big slab block of a robot in this design. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I do like it. I do like it. I don't like it a lot, though. Because it does feel off for the character. Like, it's weird. I feel like if he was any other character, I would go like, yeah, that's my design. But because he is Megatron, it just feels like it's a little too far for me. So I'm going to put him like right smack dab in the middle of everything. Right in the middle of everything. All right, Beast Wars Megatron numero uno, the original version. So, now design-wise, like, we're trying to judge by like the overall character design, which means we kind of have to leave the toy bulk off. I can judge Cybertron Megatron for his toy bulk because they put that onto his cartoon model. This one I have to judge by the cartoon model. The cartoon model cleaned a lot up, and I think he works really, really well. Aside from the fact that he's down a hand a lot of the times, unless he's put his tail away. It's a really good design. It's a really nice redesign for a Megatron. The black and purple tones work really, really well. That's always a signature Decepticon or Predacon color scheme. Just that T-Rex head, just as a menacing, just like right hand, is a cool replacement for a fusion cannon. I mean, it works for me really, really well. I love Beast Wars Megatron's design. Doesn't top the Transmetal, but I definitely want to put it really, really high up on this list, and thus I shall. And then we move on to IDW Megatron, the proper Autobot Megatron. So this is probably my favorite attempt to take the original Megatron and clean it up its design and add the detail that the original is missing. We'll talk about that next, but for now, just know that I really like this like modernized design on Megatron. It feels like he's got all of his traditional elements in the right spots, but his overall shape is so much more interesting. And yeah, and I love the added detail to him. I love the extra chance to add some color in the right spots. So yeah, he's going high up on the list. I don't think he's Holy Grail tier. Not quite, but I will put him in premium. Okay. Ironically, we come down to the original version of Megatron toward the end of this list. Let's be honest here. Let's be completely honest here. The original Megatron is classic. It is absolutely iconic, right? So, but let's admit, he's very plain looking, right? So his big details are like he's got his like barrel off the shoulder, off his like back area, and then he's got his fusion cannon hanging off his arm, which is always a really menacing thing for a villain, just like strap the biggest weapon he can find onto himself. But he is very much just gray blocks stacked onto gray blocks. There is very little to break up the color scheme. He's very flat, monochrome. And while you can make an argument for what a stark color scheme that is for a villain in comparison to Optimus Prime, who's really bright and colorful, they make a good yin and yang in that area. But if I'm judging Megatron, the G1 design all on its own, it's very plain. It is very plain. Like, even compared to other designs at the time, it was kind of plain. And yeah, like, I just think that we've done a lot better Megatron-wise since then. So I'm putting him, like, smack dab in the middle, which you notice is not really in the middle, because it's because nothing's ended up in the flea market. And after we get done with this entry, I'll tell you why. So Super Megatron, again, I kind of hinted at it with the original. I really love the idea. I really love the Super Megatron design. Ultra Megatron is like, okay, that's a bit much, but I love the idea for Super Megatron, the added weapons, the wings, the added elements of detail and color that got added to the design. I like it a lot better. I like it a lot better. So I'm gonna put him somewhere up there. I've always been really soft on that design. Love they finally came out with a toy of it. Okay, so first off, let me look this over and see if anyone else needs to move. I think I'm okay with where everybody is. Is it very biased of me to put IDW Megatron up to Holy Grail? Mostly so I can keep saying that, you know, Prime Megatron needs to be, like, right there at the top of Premium. I feel like if he just had a little bit more color to him, or just, like, a little bit more, I don't know, just he's missing a little bit of oomph to get him all the way up to the top. And just as a capper, I don't think there's any question that Beast Machine's Megatron ends up in the flea market tier if I had actually remembered to include him onto this list. I don't like how flat his color is. I don't like I don't like the floaty cape thing. I don't like the stuck to a harness. It's an attempt to make a Megatron that's super intimidating looking, but I don't think it works most of the time. I really just feel like it's vastly inferior to any of the others, and just not interesting. It's just not interesting. So there we go. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, everyone, for watching through another list. I hope that satisfied the Patreon request, and I apologize to said patron if I put your favorite Megatron very low on this list. Keep in mind, it's just this geek's opinion. So feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comment section below, and I will see you next time.
I'm like, I think you guys got this. I will back away, and I will see you all later.
You've got this handled.
Alafi's like, really? You're not gonna help me? Like, it's fine now.
It's like these disgusting creatures breathing down my neck, and you're all just like, I believe in you. You got this. That
All right,
burn.
you seem to have this. 5 minutes.